what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode on the TheBotTalk. In today's episode, guys, we are talking with Hayden. Hayden is a graphic designer within the community. He's worked with loads of big brands. I'm very excited to get into this episode. It is quite a personal episode, so if you guys like this type of style, let me know down below. I'm very interested to hear your feedback on this one. However, one last thing before we get into today's episode, we do have an episode sponsor. If you guys want to sponsor an episode of the TheBotTalk, contact me on Twitter at TheBotTalk. However, today's sponsor is Ping Proxies. Ping Proxies is a residential and data center provider with over 30 million plus residential IPs and over 25,000 data center IPs. Their proxies span over 60 countries worldwide, and all their proxies are available for all sites. I highly recommend you guys check them out. Link will be down below. Jumping straight into today's episode, guys, on the TheBotTalk, we have Hayden. Like I introduced him in the beginning, we're jumping into the first question we ask all our guests on the show. How did you discover the botting community?
What's up, man? I'd just like to say, first off, thanks for having me. I really appreciate you bringing me on and stuff. It's exciting to be on a podcast. So how did I discover the bottom community? I'd say I was like a complete outsider to it at first, and it's been like 2 years, a year and a half, so I'm relatively new to it. Before I was just like a straight up freelance designer. I'd just be online working for like a load of different clients. So I think through one of my clients just existing, just doing it for a load of different types of companies, I was just it was Solius at first, and I kind of worked for a couple other companies without even realizing like what that they were from the same community or anything. I didn't really clock onto it until a few months or so later, where I started kind of getting consistent inquiries from clients asking "Are you available for work and stuff? I've seen what you did for these guys." I'm like, well, how are these people? How are there so many referrals coming in? Because obviously at that time uh, I was kind of looking for work more than it was just coming. So it was kind of crazy to me at first, and then I sort of made friends and with my clients, and they kind of introduced me to it. And just following people on Twitter, and to be honest, it took me quite a while to even realize what was going on. Like a lot of people, I'm sure that you have on the show, they've been there since day one. A lot of people just got into reselling through like Supreme or something, but that's not how I came in at all. So it was kind of completely alien to me, and it was really fascinating in a way.
See, that's an interesting take because most people, like you said, obviously on the show, most people say oh, I got interested in this brand.
Yeah.
I was fed up of not copying, and then it led me to the botting community. But you said that because of referrals. And personally, from knowing a couple of designer friends, I know that referrals is definitely one thing to spark sales, especially when you're a freelancer and you're not dedicated to a company.
Absolutely. I think it's kind of impossible to rely on finding new work all the time. You need to kind of place yourself in a community of people uh, that kind of have friends, or you make connections in the real world, and that's the best way of being a freelancer. Otherwise, it's kind of just not sustainable. You're always panicking oh, how am I going to pay this month's bills? How am I going to do this? So I'd say definitely it's word of mouth, and getting those referrals from people that have worked with you before is probably it's definitely the best way of being a freelancer, because otherwise it's just full of stress and you're better off just being in a job.
See, now pulling apart one thing you did say in your answer there, you said you need to find a community. And now I'm really interested about why you decided to side with the bottom community. What interested you about the bottom community?
Yeah, so it's like I said, it's just fascinating. It was fascinating, and I've always kind of been, I'd say, ambitious, and I've always had a really great work ethic. Like I was always just wanted to work it sounds weird, but obviously work at things that I was passionate about. But yeah, really just kind of get my head down a lot of the time, and I really enjoyed producing stuff as a result of work. So seeing this community, and it's just majority is young people, right? And it's just it's a bunch of young people that are working super hard every day, super really hard, really dedicated. And I'm actually really lucky because I heard from people that have been in the community for a while, it was quite hostile and like toxic, and people refer to it as like getting less and less toxic. Um, it's just so like there's so much support and like positivity in it, and just seeing these people that want to build businesses from the ground up on their own terms, and do things that they're passionate about, and push for things and work hard at it. That's really what drew me to it, because people were just so hard working, really.
Yeah, I feel like being a designer in this community, you kind of in a safe spot, and I'll elaborate on that for the viewers and for yourself.
Yeah.
Essentially, when let's say you're a developer in this community, you have thousands upon hundreds of people eyeballing you,
Hmm.
relating your skill set to the success of a program they've bought. However, if you're a designer, there's a small fraction of people in this community that are designers, and without sounding rude, there's a small fraction of people that are good designers, and you fall into that category along
Thank you,
with.
man.
No problem. Obviously, I'm just going to be honest. This is my honest opinion. I would say this whether you're on the podcast or not. I've done
Yeah.
work with you before. We've talked before. And you fall into that category. So I feel like when you do
Thank you,
publish
bro.
work, people see the work and be like, okay, this is amazing. Like some of the work you've done, to name a couple of companies that we will talk about further in the episode, you've done really good work. People admire your work. And because there's such a small fraction of good work in the community, I feel like people respect it a lot more. But if let's say a Supreme bot were to open up tomorrow, we automatically have this filter in our brain to be like, okay, there's another
Right.
bot. It's like it's just another bot.
It's like an instant reputation. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're saying, definitely. And just talking about something you said about, like good designers. I think, and I don't know this for a fact, but I believe that a good percentage of the designers in the community sort of started designing as a result of botting and reselling. Um, so it's interesting to see designers develop their work within the community, because they want to. It's yeah, they've got a lot of eyeballs on them, really, in terms of the quality of their work. But I think it's really important to kind of understand that people are literally learning it as they go. And me being an outsider, in a sense, not starting here, I've already had this like long experience of being a designer and working with clients and kind of sharpening my skills. Um, one yeah, sort of one thing that I'm gonna try and make a point to do in the future is show a lot of support for coming up designers, because it's definitely something that takes dedication, and not referring to anyone at all, like, but it's definitely a way of making money. But I feel like people are passionate about it. So yeah, I'm really excited to see people develop, because you've always got to start somewhere. Like my early work was like awful, like proper awful, and it's taken me years to get to a point where people look at it and they're like, oh yeah, like I really get that. Um, so that just talking about the upcoming designers, really.
Just to play on one thing without going into the huge amount of detail, one question did come to mind there. You said you were supporting up and coming designers, which is very nice. Obviously, you want the bigger people in the community to support the younger people
Mm.
or smaller people. But from your personal experience, obviously, I've never been a designer. I've never been in that industry. Obviously, I'm in the podcast
Yeah.
industry. I've had competitors. I've successfully eliminated them. I've trumped them. I could successfully say that. I can confidently say that. But the one thing that we're designing that I've seen, and I'm not gonna mention names, like you said, I don't want to cuss anyone out here.
Yeah, of
But
course.
where's the line between supporting smaller designers and then supporting small designers that are clearly ripping off ideas? Because I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And everyone's talked about it. Everyone knows on some level that these smaller designers are ripping off big people.
Yeah, of
And
course. But
just talk
uh,
about
yeah, it's just it's a hard thing. Like if someone's sort of not yeah ripping off, but yeah, like if something's like clearly like like influenced by something, like I don't know how offended I would be. I don't know whether I'd be offended, or I guess if it was like a money come up, people are doing it for money. It's just hard, because one of my opinions about sort of creative direction in the community, and sort of the community mindset is that like everyone likes what the biggest thing does. Do you know what I mean? So obviously the number one example, the number one thing, cyber. You know what I mean? And in a way, it's cyber and these big bots. They do kind of dictate what an audience wants. Do you know what I mean? Like my clients will come to me and they'll ask for a particular style that's like, oh yeah, well this is clearly like cook group or bot. Do you know what I mean? It's a clear style that's been established because it works. Like if people are attracted to a certain style in this community, it's like very, very clear. And it's hard to kind of establish whether people should be the people should definitely be trying to innovate, but at the same time, there's a lot of time that can be wasted trying to consult and direct your client in a direction, like a different direction. Like I try and do that as much as I can, but I'd say 80%, 90% of the time, people are more they just want what's familiar and they know what works, as opposed to something that is dangerous in a way. And it's hard for people to see that aren't designers the benefits of that. I try and push as much as I can, especially with um, bigger bots when they can kind of make a name for themselves as opposed to kind of ride the wave. Um, I try and say like we need to do something unique here, like like really unique, as opposed to something that's already been done. But like I said, at the same time, it's the what people want in the community is dictated by a lot of the bigger entities and businesses that have a lot of success. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying. And just to move away from the bottom community, this is the final question here, because I know there's a lot to dissect and I definitely want to get into it. Just to
yeah,
finish off this section, have you ever bought? You're in this community, it's a big community, there's loads of tools, loads of software, loads of money in it. Have you ever participated in reselling slash buying?
I feel like this is a disappointing answer, but no, like I literally haven't. I haven't. I found kind of that it's like uh I don't have enough time in a sense. Like I'm so invested in my design career or my work as a designer that I kind of leave that up to the people that are willing to put the time and effort in, because I don't want to be doing it when I'm not going to be dedicating a good amount of time to it. I mean, you can do it, but I don't know. I feel like I just don't have enough time to follow it and stuff.
To relate to something you're saying before we put a pin in the bottom section of this episode,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be completely honest. I rarely bought. I
Yeah.
bought a Supreme. That's it. And like, if there's a big drop, I'll go for it because I have the tools. But
Yeah.
like, it just doesn't interest me. There's no interest there.
Right.
Like I don't like if someone came to me and gave me a full-time podcasting job on a company talking about something
Yeah.
I'm really interested in, I'd be on that straight away because I like this conversation. I like having conversations. If someone said I'd pay you X amount to click a couple of buttons and just watch text appear, it doesn't interest me. I know there's a money incentive there, but
Yeah. I mean, yeah,
there's
it's yeah, like obviously people do put a lot of work in for it. Not it's just a lot of hours really, and a lot of like kind of dedication of your mind space, like your head space. Um yeah, a sort of I get what you're saying, like it just doesn't interest you. How did you even come across this then? Like if
so essentially I looked into Yeezys at first. I was like, okay, let me just
yeah,
get
yeah,
into
of course, of
Yeezys.
course, of course.
And then I joined, I forgot the name. I joined a free bot marketplace, and this was like I don't want to say it was at the beginning of bot marketplaces, but there was no title, there's no bot mart.
Yeah,
As
like it
far as I'm
wasn't
aware.
like a brand.
Yeah, and then I saw Adept dropping,
Right.
and essentially I was like, this is my mindset. I had £200 in my bank account at the time.
Nice.
I was like, yeah, this was 2 years ago. Times have changed, but I had
Mate,
£200.
I was the same. I was in the same position as you 2 years ago. Trust me.
just to quickly summarize it, I was like, yo, how can I buy this bot but make my money back? I was like,
Mm.
yo, I know I'm not gonna make money because this, I think it was a Madonna tease the first week.
Right,
And I was
yeah.
like, yo, I know I'm not gonna make my money back on that. How can I create a way of making my money back even if I don't even run the bot on Thursday? I was like, yo,
Right.
let me join the staff team. And this is how my mindset works, and this is how I'm very, I'd say, not gifted, but I'm lucky to have my mind work the way it does. I
Yeah,
can't.
yeah, yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah.
I contacted the CEO at the time, which was Jack, and I said, "Yo, I will join your staff team." I showed him all my capable because at the time I had no reputation.
Yeah.
I restarted a motion design. I know, made an intro for Adept. I started making videos. He paid us in keys,
Mm.
and the market was so small that I was able to sell the keys for like £500 each.
Damn. Come up.
And obviously, that's like what? That's like a 250%
Yeah,
profit
man.
margin.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of started. I just saw the money aspect. I've never
Mm.
really truly been interested in button.
No, that's
That's
good. It's good that you're honest and it's
yeah.
not like a persona. Like, yeah, for sure.
Like just a final closing statement. Like I know there's a idea behind people just striving for money and like how it's
Mm.
sometimes scummy. But I'm gonna be completely honest. Like if I if I'm truly interested in something,
Mm.
and I know that it's healthy for my mindset, I'm making a decent amount of money doing it, like the TheBotTalk for example, I could
Yeah.
invest this time working for loads of cook groups with the little reputation I have and make
Hmm.
more money. That is a fact. But
Yeah, that's a fact, of course. Yeah.
I'm not because this is just way more enjoyable.
You definitely like a creator. You definitely feel like uh you'd be tied down a little bit if it was just pure hard labor. Yeah, for sure. You I see that definitely.
Now, moving to the next section of this episode, we're going to be talking about your designing background. It's something I really want to get deep into because when I've
Hmm.
talked to like Image Creator who came on the Butt Talk beforehand,
Yeah,
he talked
great
about his
podcast by the way.
background. Yeah, it was definitely good because it's a different perspective. It's not like a bot developer, it's not a
Yeah,
support
for
member.
sure.
So to start off this section, how did you discover your passion for designing?
Right. So I'm gonna try and not be too long explaining this because I'm gonna start like pretty early. Because I kind of knew that we were going to be talking about this, and kind of how I discovered design, and kind of thinking about it, it's quite a long like there's a lot of aspects to it. So anyway, let me get into this. um, when just growing up, I have like an older brother who's like 11 years older than me. So when I was a kid, he was like 18, 19. Do you know what I mean? And he was like completely into technology and hardware and gaming. So he'd always be building computers and be on the internet and stuff. So from an early age, I was always like really exposed to the internet, and I'd get his like hand me down computers. So when he makes a new build, I get his old I get his old build, and I started like playing games with him, and then I just had access to the internet, and it wasn't like very limited. It sounds like pretty bad on my parents' part, but it wasn't like a massive discussion back then. Like I just had access to the internet, and I just found myself sort of like exploring and developing, I don't know, my computer literacy, which is funny because I'm not like a developer or anything, or I've never even built a computer, but I was just exposed to technology and kind of being on the internet, and the digital side of things, the software side of things. And let me think. So I was on computers a lot, on the internet a lot, and then I consumed a lot of content from like the early days of YouTube. So I was like watching YouTubers, and it's funny like looking back at it, um, because I was like really interested in like how they'd have their YouTube banner and then they have their website, and it'd all be consistent. And it was like I understood what a brand was before I even knew the word brand. Like I knew like like branding yourself and everything like before I even knew what branding was at all. I've never even heard of it or design. Um, and I was like making content, like not to get anywhere on YouTube. Like, I wasn't trying to be a YouTuber, but I was like video editing and doing like little films and stuff. And I'd put them up on YouTube, but I wouldn't be like trying to be a YouTuber. And they were like awful, and people weren't watching them at all. Like, no, they like zero views on it. But I just did it because that's what I wanted to do with my free time. And I kind of found myself like wanting to build a brand around like the YouTube channel, and like I made like a header, and I made like a website for it, but it's not like anyone was had any use for this website. I just like did it because I wanted to build one. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, I was doing that for a while, and then I stumbled across people doing like one individual at first doing like speed arts. Have you ever seen speed
Yeah,
art?
my friend
Like
used to do them.
back in the day, like
Yeah.
this is like early primary school. You know, people do speed arts where they do like YouTube graphics for people, and this was before YouTube had the header. It was like the full page. Do you remember that?
Yep. I
Do you
remember
remember
that.
that it was like
Yeah.
the full page? You could like completely customize it, proper like crazy stuff, crazy world. Um, anyway, so I started getting into that, and I was like making stuff for my website, making assets and my YouTube headers without even realizing it was design. Like, are you familiar with GIMP? It's like Photoshop ripoff free. So you
Yeah,
get
yeah. I used to have it. Yeah.
yeah, of course, everyone. So I was making stuff on there, and then I started kind of I wanted to make speed arts like this guy who was getting like 500 views, and I was like, damn, that's crazy views. Like, 'cause I was getting like one view a video, like it was just myself.
Mhm.
um, so I'd be making speed arts. I started making speed arts, um, like contacting small YouTube channels, not even like pretty much begging them to like let me do the art for their channel.
Mhm.
Um, so I made like a load of them, and I basically did that for 3 or 4 years.
Well, yeah, it's interesting to know about your come up and how you developed, obviously, your brand awareness. You start identifying certain things that kind of began your interest. However, when you first started designing, what were some of your first early designs like?
Ah, they're awful, like proper bad, proper bad. I started doing like there's another Adobe program called Fireworks, and I was using that like as Photoshop, which is definitely like not what you're meant to be doing. So it was like really just piled together stuff. Like obviously a lot of people in this community, a lot of designers, they're designing for a purpose, whereas I was just designing for fun. And I was just making like photo manipulations and, like I said, YouTube banners and stuff. And yeah, they were pretty bad. I started like offering people on my Facebook, like, do you want like a Facebook header? So like people that I knew in real life, I'd make them like a custom Facebook header. Yeah, they were pretty trash, but we all start somewhere.
Referring to a couple of things you did say there, you obviously talked about how your designs weren't very good. However, when someone starts something and they aren't doing very good, sometimes it can discourage them. How did that make you want to continue designing?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was just I just did it because I loved it. But I also like there was I'd find out like new techniques, like I'd watch a new YouTube tutorial where I'd be able to like do something new, and I'd just follow a tutorial and like do exactly what they made. And I think I've always kind of been interested in learning about stuff sort of on my own accord. Um, yeah, so yeah, it's just sort of just love learning really, love learning the techniques and coming up with new stuff, and that was it. And then obviously, like I like doing the speed arts for people and like making YouTube banners, because you'd get like some sort of positive like thanks. Like I wasn't getting paid, but it's all I needed when I was like what 10 or 11 or 12.
So moving forward a bit in your designing career, we've talked about how you've offered literally free graphics to people just to practice, develop your crafts. How did you go from that to creating a revenue stream through designing?
Yeah, it took a long time. Like it took a while. I'd say, well, it's been maybe 4 years that I've been making. Like 4 years ago, I was making like pocket money basically. So I was doing free work up until I don't even know, like year 10, maybe. Year ten's like how old are we in year 10 over here? Sorry, sorry, US 15. Yeah, like 15, 14, 15, and I'd do like a logo for £30 or like £25, like a full logo, and they were all right. Like they were bad. Like they probably were what I probably priced them at what they were worth, but they were still logos. I still provided like vector stuff, and yeah, because I was like I'd already learned quite a lot in terms of like the actual industry, and then I'd say there was a point in when I was at college, um, studying design at the time. I was just done with academic stuff. Um, where I found out a way of making all right money from it. It was a lot of work, but it was more money than I'd ever had in my life. Um, by doing it like through, like TweetDeck, where you can like put key searches in. So I put in like looking for a logo or something, and it'd be like just random businesses or like random people that are just doing their own thing. And I'd get in touch and I would offer them like a logo design for 25, £30. And I managed to get like enough of them where I had like £500. And that was like crazy for me at the time. Like coming from not like a very wealthy family, it's like that seems like a lot of money. Like I was also working part time at the time, but only weekends, so it would be limited. It would be limited every time I get a paycheck, and I would say I haven't been. I mean, yeah, like I've had a few good paying projects outside of this community, but this community's definitely been sort of a blessing in bringing my uh my plans for being a designer to life. Like, because I always kind of knew that like I can definitely do this. I definitely have sort of the talent and the ideas and the work ethic to do it. And I knew that I was good enough. I just never was provided with a good enough opportunity until now recently.
Yeah, touching upon something you did say in your answer, you did say that this community is like a hub of generating revenue. You
Yeah,
toyed
man.
with that idea. Relating to that, when I joined this community, like I said, I had like £200 in my account.
Mm,
Now I can confidently say through like building my brands, my personal brand,
yeah,
building the bot talk, going through all these things, working with companies. There's companies I currently work with that I don't openly disclose that are only working with me because they know who I am, and I feel like I've personally never worked a part-time job. Now, let me just
yeah,
play on that idea. I've volunteered and I've
yeah.
worked for my dad as well.
Hmm.
But the mindset I took is that I went to a job interview over the previous summer,
Yeah,
and I kind of like took in the atmosphere, and I was like, I don't want to work
yeah. It's
16,
awful.
18 hours.
Trust me.
Like, but
Trust me.
this isn't a flex. This is just creating a perspective for the
Hmm.
viewers and for yourself. Like, obviously, you'll know. I
Yeah,
have friends that work part-time jobs and
yeah,
they
man.
work X amount all
Hmm.
month, make like £500 end of the month, right? But
Trust
then
me.
I could send out a tweet and load some stock on a website and make £500 sitting in my chair whilst watching a YouTube video. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
exactly, man.
It's the perspective, and me personally, like I have nothing against part-time jobs. I will probably have a job in the future, but I've always liked the idea of creating revenue myself. And
Yeah, man, definitely. But it's there's definitely a select group of people that want to do that, but it's it's just being like exposed to it and like
yeah,
having that information to make that mindset. Like, how did you sort of come to having that mindset?
well, I've never really spoke about it before, but my dad owns a business, and
Right.
I, the business was created 2 years before I was born, so
Mm,
I've seen it go through the recession in 2008,
right. Yeah.
and then I've seen it obviously go down. I've seen it go up. I've lived through that, and obviously because that
Hmm.
is the main source of income, I've
In the house.
lived
Yeah.
with So I've just grown up around it. Like I'd take
Like
trips with him.
business.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
grown around it. Like there's been days where I'd go to his office and
Hmm.
then do his invoice books for him and just like tell her, yeah, that. And I feel
Yeah.
like that exposure was definitely good, because then as his business became more successful, I'm not saying some huge brand, obviously the living conditions got better, and in my head it kind of developed a line where I basically said to myself, if I want nice things, I need to work hard.
Mhm.
And to just obviously summarize this,
It's
if
probably
I'm,
it's probably just in your DNA, mate. It's just
yeah,
in your DNA, and just being surrounded by it showed you that it's possible to do your own thing.
yeah, and I think my dad actually mentioned this as well. Like when I first started creating revenue from this, he
Yeah,
said people within this community. Let me just touch upon it. Any type of reseller that's creating revenue, you're working harder, but you're working smarter.
yeah,
In my
yeah,
opinion, I
yeah.
feel like going to a part-time job, you're working hard. All right,
Hmm.
there's no doubt about that. But
Yeah,
doing this and taking advantage of the demands and just creating
yeah,
revenue, you're working smarter.
yeah,
And
definitely.
and I feel like people need to understand that because obviously there's loads of resellers now.
Hmm.
That is a fact. But you gotta understand, even though there's thousands of resellers, that I've tried to teach people how to resell. I've tried to teach
Yeah,
people
mate,
how to make
mate.
money.
Tell me, like, I can't even explain to people what it is. Like, I cannot. People do not know. Like in my real life, my friends, my family, they do not understand it at all. They don't even understand the simple the concept of selling something more than retail. Do you know what I mean? And making money from it. Like people make millions from this, like millions of pounds and dollars. Do you know, and people just think it's not real. Like you've got to have a definitely got to have a mind for it.
So moving away from that conversation, we're gonna dive back in and circle back around to the bottom community here, like we talked about at the beginning. What was some of the first design work you did within the bottom community?
There's definitely two that come to mind straight away because after the first kind of few, it kind of is kind of a bit of a blur because I work with a lot of sort of small cook groups at quite a high frequency, if that makes sense. So I was doing more smaller projects than larger projects, so it's all kind of a blur. But two of the businesses that I did work for originally, like I said, I did work for Solius, and then I think the site supply.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those were the two I think like recognizable names that I did work for in the early days.
Yeah, I definitely do think that did help you create a name within the community because I feel like once you go ahead and release that video, if they go ahead and at you below the video saying
Yeah,
credits to the creator, that obviously drives some attention.
I didn't do videos for a while. It sparked because of like obviously at the time Solius was like a big name and they still are, but at that time it was quite a big deal and people were asking about who was making the logo. Like I said, in a kind of a smaller scale than like Cyber, for people that looked up to Solius at the time, it kind of established like a style that people sought after for a while, and that's kind of what generated a lot of my interest to begin with, and that sort of turned into working with bigger names that were exposed to kind of different areas of the community because obviously that there's kind of different subgroups um, through the community.
So, talking about projects within the community, I feel like we should strip down to the basis ideas. So, if I were a cook group owner, a bot owner, a service, a tool, there's loads of things these days you can create promotional
Yeah,
videos for. But the point being, if I came to you, I paid you X amount up front, I said, create me a video, here are the requirements that you asked for.
hmm,
What is the process like? Break down the process, go into detail about what your mindset's like, what your
yeah.
attitude's like, what you do about it.
So I'd say obviously, like I've spoke about earlier in the episode, I'm very much brand focused, and I always have been. Like that's my main passion, like branding. So sort of like video and site and UI stuff. That sort of came secondary to that. So I came in with like this foundation of the most important thing in my opinion is sort of building a brand that is solid and people recognize and it's consistent, and it's just in people's heads. So definitely like my first thought when coming into a project whatever scale is like, right, what is the brand currently, if they have a brand currently, what does the brand need to be, or how can I optimize the brand? That's always my focus. It's always about how can what I do here completely optimize the trajectory of the company or business, um, completely optimize it so that my work does produces the best results that it can, essentially. So it's like I always come from like a brand theory and a design theory standpoint, because I've got a like I am being educated and I have had an education in like the theory behind design. Um, where I look at, right, who's your audience? What do they want to see? What's going to attract them? What's going to bring them from point A to point B? Whether that be like, are you selling the product? Whether you're advertising a new feature? Like each of these different contexts needs a different approach to optimize what, like the effectiveness, essentially. So I always think about like, if it's, for example, if a business comes to me with a video idea, I always look at their brand, what what previous visual assets have been created for them, um, remain consistent with that, but also kind of bring a new spark to it. So it's always about understanding the context and understanding the, not only the client but the audience, and sort of how effective, how you can make it the most effective.
Yeah, not to take away from the work you do or how easy your job is, because I know designing isn't.
Yeah,
But one thing about operating within this community, you're targeting the exact same people, right?
yeah,
The entire audience for these videos, everyone that was gonna see them, you're not gonna have someone in, I don't know, the car engineering community come
mm,
over and see this video. You're gonna see the exact same people seeing this video. You know how to cater to that, and I feel like through developing your work and doing more jobs for people, you get a better idea of how people respond to something, how the
mm,
engagement is, the way to present things. And I feel like that is obvious in your work, because obviously your work has developed. And that isn't to say your previous work is bad, but the
yeah,
development is clearly there.
yeah. I'd say just touching on some things that you said there, um, and like how we talked about quality of work and stuff. It is difficult to be a designer, but it's not incredibly difficult to learn Photoshop or learn how to make something like like just. But I think what separates like a good designer from a great designer is sort of the thinking and the nitpicking and the detail that goes into your thought process behind every design. Like I pride myself on how much thought and how much like theory and planning goes into the work, as opposed to just purely the visuals, because it's just as much about how pretty it is, uh about how, like how it does its job. um so yeah, like I say, I think it's definitely something that smaller designers should definitely look into, in terms of learning more about uh how to make your designs work better, in a sense, because it's easy to kind of get caught up and think that it's literally just about the aesthetics of it. But I'd say that would definitely separate you from the rest of the crowd, in like that your client sees a direct result from your work.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you did say there. However, we've talked about operating in this community, and with that, there are some things that you do like. There's some advantages and disadvantages. We ask all our guests on the show, can you go into detail about being a designer within this community and what are the advantages and disadvantages of that?
I'd say advantages, to be honest, it just like it's very humbling to be provided with this opportunity that I've been given by this community. Like it is crazy the amount of support and like it's completely, in a sense, changed my life in a way, because it's given me the ability to kind of live freely and be financially free while doing what I love. Um and it's full of a lot of great people who really like respect what you do. So yeah, that's definitely some of the advantages of it. Uh, and also, of course, like what you say, like the it is revenue. Like, to be honest, it's great revenue, and you feel like you're uh, well respected and kind of treated fairly in a way. Because as a designer, especially as a freelance designer, you can get treated like a piece of shit a lot of the time. yeah, people take advantage of you just being able to produce this, and they don't think it takes that much effort and dedication. But like I said, I've been doing this for 7, 8 years, and I was doing it for 5 or 6 without even getting a penny from it. Do you know what I mean? So it's definitely, like I said, it's definitely a blessing uh, to have been involved in this community so far, and get all the support I have, and all the clients, and just everything really about it is great. But in terms of disadvantages, um, like in comparison with being just a regular designer, is definitely you've got to put the work in and you've got to make yourself available. People, it's very much on demand in this community. People are very, I don't say consumed, but it's 90% of people's days. Do you know what I mean? So people will get frustrated and angry at you if you don't respond like within a couple hours, when in reality it's like, in the real world when you're doing uh design work for a company, it's like these some of these projects take like 3 or 4 months for like some simple stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because of the emails back and forth, office hours and stuff. So it's definitely like you got to be prepared to get your head down and kind of get in, as opposed to just dipping your feet in it. It's hard to kind of be half and half. You've got to be completely dedicated to it. But like I say, it's like a massive blessing. So I'd be an idiot to kind of bite the hand that feeds me and try and like change change the way people operate. Like people work fast in this community because that's how you need to be. That's how you're successful. Like you're competing against people creating competitors all the time, and people want it fast. But it's just like I definitely see that now when coming into the community. It was kind of like Jesus, man. Like, come on, give me a second to get it to you. Uh, but now I definitely see that it's like they hire me because they need something in order to succeed, or their business to succeed. And so now my mindset is definitely like every project that I work within is like I don't treat it like a one-off client. Like I treat it like I'm part of the team and I'm gonna like benefit in the long term, in terms of like these guys will obviously get a percentage of all the income that they get, whereas like I just get a one-off payment for the most part, and then I'm out. But I try and like completely immerse myself in the business and be a part of the team, and try and like act as if, well, design and be present as if I'm like 100% invested. So like, yeah, so it definitely has its advantages and disadvantages, but like I say, for the most part, it's amazing to be able to do what I do. And like you say, we know people that are our age, and they they have these part-time jobs, and it's just a massive, it can be coming from being like well paid for what you do, and like the hours that you put in is you feel like it's good value, and seeing sort of the hours that people put in at these part-time jobs, and sort of like the catering industry and stuff like that, like food and like restaurants, and then obviously like clothing shops and things like that. It definitely, I definitely feel like very lucky. So the disadvantages are definitely just part of that. Like you can't have all this great stuff without putting the work in. And I just think, yeah, you kind of be an idiot to try and change that.
Yeah, you touched upon one thing that I commonly do talk to people on this show about, the trade off. And the trade off is that this community is a niche community. You generate loads of revenue from it, but there are trade offs. And
Hmm.
that kind of segues nicely into the next thing I'm going to ask you, one of the final questions. When you're taking on all these clients and you're bringing on all this work, there's only 24 hours in a day, all right? You need to
Yeah.
have time to sleep, eat, socialize. How
Do you?
has, well, I
I'm joking.
mean, it comes, okay, so
That's how it feels like sometimes.
yeah, I mean, it's part of the trade off. That's the way
Yeah,
I label
definitely,
it.
man.
But how has this job or
What
this
I do, yeah.
whole, yeah, what you do affected your personal life?
I'd say it's definitely affected my personal life, but my friends are great, my girlfriend's great. Like people are very understanding, and I feel like it's at first like I definitely went through stages where it took like a massive toll on me. But I think it was more about my headspace and kind of adjusting the way I thought about it, and how I balanced it. Like, you know, before, like I was just kind of, I always kind of just did it when I wanted, in a way. Like I just do a lot of nothing, and then late at night, like at midnight, I'd just be like cranking out the work that I had. But it started to put demands on me where like now I'm like I aim to get up at like 6:30 so that I can go like gym and be healthy and also get all my work done without going to bed at a stupid time. But sometimes that does slip. Um, but overall, like I'm able to balance it pretty well. I'd say it's definitely more about your approach to it as opposed to like you can work around it is what I'm trying to say. Like
Yeah,
you can
100%.
definitely work around it if you have the right mindset and you're smart about it. Like you can if you treat it like an actual job, you can get a lot of your workload done. And I'm lucky because I know obviously like group owners and bot owners, they've kind of got to be available all the time in a sense because especially like because it's all drop focused, this community, it's all based on drops, like when that's going to happen, so you've got to like be available for it. Whereas obviously because I don't bot, you don't bot, like we don't have to kind of be on all the time, but it's obviously it's a lot of work. So you've just got to plan your day around it. And like there was a point where I just couldn't handle it in terms of like it's just a lot. But once I got my head right and sort of my relationships right with my friends and my girlfriend, it's yeah, it's smooth sailing really. Like obviously I'm at university, so people get my friends, like they're out all the time. Like people are out all like they're out uh drinking and stuff all the time. And obviously I have a lot less time for that, but that doesn't mean that I miss out on it. Um as long as you put the work in, I say like you can definitely balance.
Yeah, I mean, if I was to give my perspective on it, just to finish off, because I like one of the things about this episode in particular, we've talked about a lot of stuff. We've removed that like barrier, and I'm just really interested in that, and that's why it's this long. And I'm really enjoying this episode so far. But
Yeah, me too, man.
touching about the personal life thing, for me personally, the only stressful thing about running the bot talk is what I'm doing right now is that I will do this episode with you this week, right?
Hmm.
Next week, I have to find something completely new. I need to find
Yeah.
someone new. I need to organize it. I need to sit them down. I need to talk to them, send them the questions, get that edited. Because after this, I'll go and explain the process to all the
Hmm.
viewers. This is how it works. I sent you the questions yesterday. We
Hmm.
talked through the questions. We organized
Yeah.
the questions. We do this. I record it. I go through it, edit my audio, edit your audio, edit the video together, send it off to you. If you're not happy with it, we make the changes. We send
Yeah.
it back. We render it, upload it, market it, done. That is for 1 week. That's every Friday.
Yeah.
And
It's a
it,
lot. Yeah.
yeah, because you got to think about it. Like 25 episodes in, 25 unique people that have agreed to come onto the show. Give or take some multiple people episodes.
Yeah.
It's hard, especially when I'm not the biggest person in the community. You need to have connections. Luckily, I've definitely hit a niche thing. I've
Yeah, for
really
sure.
and with big names coming on, it's just like every time I send a DM to someone saying, "Hi, I'm from the Bot Talk. Would you like to come on?" 95% of the time to say yes.
And I'd say definitely a direct uh uh result, not result, cause of that is because of how good you are at it, man. Like
Cheers, man.
you definitely put a lot of dedication in it, and that's like I was just like sort of honored in a way, like when you asked me, because it's like you want to kind of have me on and have my opinion and talk about it. And yeah, like it's definitely something that I was like really excited to be a part of, because it's definitely something that you can see is like it's unique, it's creative, it's interesting, and I love stuff like this. And I think a lot of people in this community do, and they love when people kind of respect and like show them they want to hear their opinion. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's definitely great, man. So congratulations on all the great stuff
Cheers,
you've been
man.
doing.
You were actually meant to come on in season one, but I had to end season one
Shaking
really.
my head.
Bro, this is the thing. Season one had to end. And the reason why I had to end season one is because I had to first of all take a break
Yeah.
because I was from August. You gotta understand, this is a weekly thing. This is like,
Yeah.
yo, I'll do this, boom, great, had a nice conversation, I'm on to the next person.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, going into 2020, I haven't spoke about this publicly, but going into 2020, I have to change some stuff. There was a couple of things in my life I wasn't too good about, wasn't in the best place. I was like, yo, I need to like fix myself up. I've literally have no time to waste. I'm 17. I need to, first of all, bring in the money. I mean, I don't have a job, fair enough. I need to bring in the money. I need to,
Yeah, you got.
I got to align my focuses. I need to pinpoint, like, 2020 has easily been, I know I'm like a month and a half in, the most productive year of my life, just because of the fact that,
Same, man. Same.
yeah, I don't know where it is. It's start of a new.
I just got a kick, man. I got the bug. I got the hard work bug.
So something happened. Something happened on New Year's, and it's just like it just everything clicked. Like,
yeah, man.
Just to dive into it because we're talking about it now. I go to the gym every day. I'm dieting.
Yep.
Like literally everything
That's
is
what's
perfect.
up, man.
Everything's on the equilibrium. Like, it's good.
It's definitely like, I'd say, like, definitely going gym and being healthy. It just definitely propels you, man. Because it's like once you've been to the gym, like, I've never been a morning person, but I've been getting up at like 6:30 in the morning, and I'm going gym, and then it's like, well, why am I insulting myself by not having a productive rest of my day when I made that such great start? Like, you just feel like it, and yeah, that's definitely something I recommend. And it's good for the mind as well, and you need that in this community, especially.
Yeah, just to finish off today's episode, it's been a very, very interesting conversation, and I know the viewers would have liked this because we just kind of went off.
We went off.
And I definitely do think this would probably be. Will it be the longest episode? This might be the longest episode of the book.
Yeah, I'll take that trophy.
25 episodes, your longest episode. But to
Come
finish
on.
it off, obviously your work is really good. I've said that.
Thank
What
you.
are some of the companies that you can't disclose or hint towards that you are working with currently?
Right. Right. I've been working with some people, not on the product that they're famous for, but outside the product. It's a company that's like a triangle. The yeah. Yeah. Just the team. They're great guys over there. Nothing for the main product, but some really great stuff that's coming out soon. Also, I think I can disclose this. It's like I'm working on stuff with Tsunami and the guys from, and yeah, Jabba's great. Like yeah. So, and I think that's going to be a long term working relationship. So I'm definitely looking forward to kind of steering creatively. So watch that space, you know. And then another I work. I'm starting to work quite closely with some of the team at Restock World, and especially Vispo. Vispo has shown a lot of support, and he's a great guy. So yeah, I think those are the main ones. There's some stuff coming up that I literally can't. I'm obligated not to say anything. But yeah, there's some great stuff, and it's great to see all my work come out and produce the great response. Because it's like, I'll design stuff, especially like for websites in UI, and that takes a while to come out after I've designed it, because obviously they've got to go through the whole back end, front and full stack. Like, they've got to develop the whole thing. So it's great to have stuff coming out, which I'm really excited to share. I've been loving kind of putting my work out there and tweeting consistently. That's something that I never really did, but I don't know. It's definitely building up like a nice feed of projects, and I'm just really enjoying it, to be honest.
Well, that is a very good conclusion to today's episode. I know this episode was long,
Yep.
but it's very interesting. We uploaded the conversation. I liked it. So, guys, there's a final couple of things I want you guys to do. Go down below into the description, check out Hayden, go follow him on Twitter. Trust me,
Thank you.
you want to see the content that's coming out from him.
Thank you.
And if you guys are watching this in the future and you've seen his future projects, just know that he's been working quite hard on these projects. I know from speaking with him, and I know the companies he's working with, obviously the ones he's mentioned are pretty big. And to think that he can't mention some companies because he's obligated not to, you just can imagine how big they are. There's a lot of things coming from him.
Ooh.
Make sure to follow him on Twitter. I'm gonna catch you guys next time. Peace out.